Okay, cool.
Okay, so we have all our participants entered the webinar.
Okay.
So warm welcome to all our participants. Hi Aditi, Bhavna, Ayushi, Baumik, Chetan, Divyanshu, Divyal, Hilak, Parvati, Pulkit, Ritvik. A warm welcome to all of you. Hi Bhavna, hi Chetan. Good evening, Divyanshu. So, well, it's time to begin with our today's webinar. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The world's growing ever more competitive. Even if you already have a job, making sure you have access to the best opportunities means going beyond the usual. It is not enough to stay on top of your to-do list or meet the expectations of your job description. If you want to make an impression, you have to differentiate yourself from others. There are three things people notice that can help or hinder you in setting yourself apart: your attitude, how you treat others, and how you act when you think no one is watching. How do we create impact and influence in your professional life? Let's hear it from our expert today. HR Association of India welcomes you all to the 2021 Dialogue Masterclass series on the topic Creating Impact and Influence in Your Professional Life. To know more about HRAI and its event, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. Request all the participants to kindly follow the webinar guidelines mentioned in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all participants to kindly share your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Ms. Dipika Singh, speaker and digital content creator, life skills and motivation, shemeansbusiness.com. After 15 years as a marketing professional with leading brands, she chose to be an experiential learning trainer and motivational speaker. She helps people identify and amplify their own key strengths through a series of experiential exercise, extraordinary stories of successful people, and usage of powerful tools such as storytelling and continuous learning. She brings humor, engagement, relatability to all her workshops and speaker sessions. She believes all of us have it in us to be more impactful versions of ourselves given the requisite tools. You will find She Means Business content on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. Details for the same are mentioned in the chat window. I now hand over the platform to Ms. Dipika Singh. Over to you, Dipika.
Thank you so much, Peter. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
All right, great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the lovely introduction, Peter. It always makes me feel very good because, it's so nice to see so many people in front of you and to be able to share your experience and your expertise. That always gives me a lot of pleasure. One second, just 1 second, guys, 1 second. I'm so sorry. Work from home issues.
The new normal.
The new normal, yes. So, basically sharing expertise, that gives me a lot of, it just feels very, very nice. So just to quickly, the introduction that you've given, I'm just going to, again, sort of tell you and how I landed up doing this and how it sort of also impacts today's topic, so I'm going to start from there. So I've been in marketing for many years, and I understand, how branding and marketing for products and brands really works, right? So for about 15 years, I did that as my day job. And then I was working with Kingfisher Airlines. And in 2012, when Kingfisher folded up, I didn't really want to go look for another job. I just wanted to try my hand at doing something of my own, like a lot of us, feel that way. I wasn't very clear on what that something would be. So I started doing a lot of events with corporates, which were internal events, those typical fun Fridays, and you have these team building events, etc. So I started by doing that. But I have always been very fond of speaking, and I think um, also ensuring that people learn from me, so my experiences, everything that I have to share. So while doing these, I'm also very fond of speaking. I used to do this as a college goer. I would work as a freelance anchor. So then when I started doing these internal events for corporates, I also started working on a few workshops, very interesting workshops that would help you create impact at work. I think when I started this, I wanted people to look at their 9 to 5 as not separate from their life, right? It's not something to, it's not a part of your life. It is your life, So how can you create more impact by being yourself and not treating it like something you have to do because you have to, earn an income and get salary at the end of the month, but being you and then ensuring that you're the best version of yourself and ensuring that you leave a lot of impact. And when I say impact, I don't mean that your impact is when you write a great post on LinkedIn and then you see how many people have actually viewed it. Impact is also the impact that you have in your immediate surroundings. So when I speak to people, they start thinking in terms of, oh, I'll have to create content, I'll have to write on LinkedIn, I'll create impact like that. I feel impact even if the 5 people who work with you, or the 10 people in your team, or the 50 people in your various people that you interact with, if you're able to leave enough impact, if you're able to influence them, if they look at you as someone worth listening to, worth doing, worth following your vision, that is also impact. So I think that is what I, as I went along, I realized that that was to be the core of my subject, right? And I have seen it myself. I realized that when I started, I was like any other B2B person. I did events and I did workshops and I would go to corporates and I would say that, you like this is what I do. And then I would compete on so many other things like prices and so on and so forth. But the minute I started talking about, creating an impact with my own content, I started going out, I started building interesting learning videos, which a lot of people started seeing. Work flowed in. People started seeing me as an expert. I started creating an impact. You reached out to me, Peter. A lot of people, have reached out to me. So I think once you decide what your goal is as far as impact is concerned, in my case, my goal was to be seen as someone who imparts learning, who has something to be seen, which is why I create content. But in your case, your goal could be, simple things like, within your organization, how are you seen as someone who's strong and impactful? How do people see you? What do people listen to you? When you speak in a meeting, do people think of you as someone who's got something interesting and something impactful to say? So those are the things that I think matter. And that's what I wanted to talk today. And I'm going to talk about 5 or 6 things that can actually help you create an impact, right, in your professional world. And the first thing that really, really counts is, whatever impact you want to create, the first thing is to know yourself and your strengths and skills very, very well. It's an exercise that not many of us do. When we have to make a resume, we sit down and उसमें लिखना होता है हम what are your strengths, and we think of the best strengths to put there so that you're accepted for whatever role you're applying for. But if you do this exercise not because of the resume, but honestly because you yourself want to evaluate what your skills are. What are my skills? What am I really good at? The minute you're able to do that, now you know that these are my skills and I want other people to know about these skills. How will that happen? So the first step is to really figure out what your strengths and your skills are. The minute you're clear on that, you will now start working towards ensuring that you utilize those strengths, and that's when you start creating impact. Let me give you an example. For example, there could be someone who has great communication skills. When this person speaks, other people listen, right? Or when this person speaks, they're able to structure thoughts and structure flows of presentations or structure flows of Even a meeting, how is a meeting going? What are people saying, etc. This person is able to structure their thoughts very, very well. Now that's a strength, right? So, but what happens? We go through life not even knowing that this is a strength that I have. We look at strengths as these large, big, impactful strengths. But even tiny, tiny things that you're good at is a strength. You're unique. So that's a strength that you have, right? Start evaluating your strengths. And now that you know your strengths, these are the 6, 7 things that I'm really good at. Use them to your advantage, right? So if you're good, so I know a gentleman. I had coached that person. He was very good at uh, getting people to collaborate, and he didn't know this. So every time, for example, there was an internal event, this person would be roped in because, you get everybody together, ensure that sales works in. Can you think of something interesting to do, etc., etc. But he didn't even realize that was a strength. Getting people together and getting them to do things is a huge strength. But the minute he realized this through coaching, that he's able to do this, that awareness of his strength helped him to become a better boss because he realized that people were listening to him, and that's the impact that he was creating, right? So he was able to give direction to his team, because he became more cognizant about that strength of his. So he was able to give direction to his team better because now he was utilizing his strength to become more impactful. So this is an exercise that I think all of us should do. In fact, I would encourage you to do this over the weekend, which is, sit down with a blank piece of paper and write down 5 or 6 things that, you're really good at. And I'll tell you something, it's funny, but if I ask people to write down their strengths, it takes a very long time. If I ask them to write down their weaknesses, fat karke, immediately, I'm not good at this, I don't like this about myself, I'm so bad at this, so we're very quick with our weaknesses, but we find it very difficult to actually put down our strengths. It's a very beneficial exercise to actually sit down and figure out, what your strengths are. So start with that. Be cognizant about your strengths and utilize them as much as possible. Because as you work in your professional organization, or in whatever profession you're in, if you start working on your strengths, you get more efficient at them, you get better at them, and also your work gets done better at on time. And that's really why do a lot of people take lesser time to do things? They're not complaining about work-life balance because they know what they're good at and what they're not good at. They will focus on what they are good at, and everything else they will either delegate or find a substitute or find some other way of doing it. And when you begin to get good at your work, you're impactful, right? People begin to understand that you're good at something and you start leaving impact. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing that I want to say is that you leave impact anywhere when you're engaged with the situation, right? So suppose it's as simple if you walk in for a client meeting, right? And you're not engaged with that situation, right? You will not leave an impact. It's just something you have to do. The client may not give you work, so it doesn't really matter. It's just something that has to be done because your boss has said, go take that meeting, right? So you're not engaged with that situation.
Looks like we have lost Dipika. The screen got frozen. Let's wait till she joins back. We have some technical issues. We just lost Dipika. She'll be back in a while. Till then, would request all our participants to kindly stay tuned.
Please in the chat if you can hear me. Yeah, and I think I lost connection in between.
Yes. We can hear you now.
Okay. I was talking. Oh, yeah. As somebody who organizes events, internal events, I know exactly the employees who are not engaged, who they will already like, hey, it's not job, what am I going to learn? Or so you're not engaged.
Hi, Dipika. Deepika, we are not able to hear you. I see you connected, but somehow your microphone is not connected. Deepika, you will have to unmute yourself. You will have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me? Is it clear now? Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better now. In between, we were losing your voice. It was breaking in between.
Okay, great. I hope this lasts. I sincerely hope this lasts. All right. So I was talking about being engaged with the situation. So any job that you do, it's very important to be engaged. You cannot be the person who hangs out at the corner and says, see, because what happens is that when you're not engaged, you're not an engaged employee. You're not happy with yourself for whatever reason. You're not happy with the work you're doing. You're not happy with your boss, whatever situation. Sometimes you're just not happy being in a 9 to 5. You think that you just want to find your passion, etc. But what happens is when you're not engaged, people around you come to know that you're not engaged. And that's a dangerous situation, right? Because then you won't get the meaty projects. People are not going to be discussing interesting things in terms of, their vision, because you will find ways of being negative, and you will find ways of not being engaged, not being interested in positive developments and doing a better job at your work, right? You will start being left out of interesting projects, or you'll find yourself also not willing to look at the positive side of things, right? You will always be running something or the other down. That's dangerous. So if you want to leave impact, be engaged with every situation. You're going for a meeting. Your boss has asked you to go meet someone, and there will be not anything coming out. But be engaged, because you don't know, this person that you're meeting may not give you an immediate sale. But this is a person who, if likes you, and if you leave an impact on that person, this person will turn around and ensure that the organization gives you some work. His organization gives you some work because you've left an impact at him, right? Or this person could lead to becoming a great professional mentor, friend, whatever, right? So it doesn't matter whether you think this meeting is not important or important. Just be engaged in that situation. Similarly, when you're working somewhere, be engaged, with the organization. Try and find ways in which you can be as engaged as possible. So every mm, fun thing that are happening, or interesting things that are happening, engage with that. Always bring your new ideas to work, because somebody or the other will see value in them, right? So always be engaged in a situation and engaged with your organization. And I think of it as a mental switch. So if I go for a meeting, for example, um, if I'm sitting in the reception, first of all, I prepare really well. If you want to leave an impact, that's okay. That's was not a part of this, but I'm going to tell you something. Anything, it's an interview, it's a meeting. Preparation will take you very far, very, very far. If you prepare on who you're meeting and a little bit about their organization, and if you're able to talk to them, you know, it will take you very far, because you will leave an impact. You will come across as someone who has knowledge, who has taken the time and the effort to research a little before meeting someone. Trust me, that will help you leave so much of an impact. Think of it this way: if in your organization, or if somebody were to come and tell you and say, Ki, oh, you know what, I saw that new ad that you released, you'll feel so nice. Oh, you saw it, what did you think about it? Or somebody comes and says something about, we heard positive things about you guys getting funding. Oh yeah, nice. So the minute you research about any person and about any organization, when you walk in to meet someone, it leaves a lot of impact, because now you have things to talk about interestingly and knowledgeably, and people are actually impressed with the fact that you took time out. So that's a great way to leave impact. Be research a little and prepare a little whenever you're entering into any situation. That's a great way to be engaged. I was talking about mental switch. So, if I'm sitting at a reception area and I have to meet someone, I've collected my thoughts, etc. The minute this person comes out to meet me, or nowadays we have online, the minute this has to start, there is a mental switch on. Everything will come together. And they say that you leave an impact within the first 10 seconds of somebody seeing you. It's not wrong to some extent. Why? Because everything that you are, your confidence levels, whether you're looking forward to this meeting or not, whether you're looking forward to this interview or not, how you have put yourself together, everything will give the other person, like a subconscious idea of who you are and how interested you are in this meeting, right? So the minute that person comes out to meet you and you stand up, your mental switch should come on. Everything else doesn't matter. What matters is this person, this particular meeting, this particular situation. And let me give it my best till it becomes a habit. It should become a habit that every time you're entering into an interaction with someone, your mental switch should come on. So all your body language, confidence should be geared towards impressing or impactfully, showcasing yourself to this person. This includes your body language. This includes simple things like your handshake. This includes the first few things that you say to this person, how well researched, or how looking forward you are to this meeting. That's what leaves impact. So there is this mental switch. It should become a habit. If you really want to leave impact with people, it should be a mental switch that comes on, and you're like completely focused on the situation. And that's what helps you to leave an impact. The next thing that I want to talk about is something that I truly believe in. Storytelling leaves an impact. If you connect with people with stories, you will see that during this entire talk, I will have a lot of stories to tell you. And stories help people understand concepts better. And stories help you to relate with people better. And storytelling is an art, but it can be learned very, very easily. And once you are able, and storytelling, stories particularly from your life, if you're able to use them, you know, it will leave a lot of impact with people. Again, let me tell you a little story. Um, when my husband and I got married, he was working with an organization called Castrol. It sells oil, particularly to transporters, large transporters with, fleets of trucks, etc. And we were very fond of road trips. And every time we would, go out for a road trip, every time we saw a truck, you know, and most of these large transport guys, they will have the name of the organization and the phone number written on the side of the truck. So every time my husband would tell me, Dipika, note down the number because he's a potential client. This guy will call and figure out who is the person to speak with, etc. It's a potential client. Can you please note down the number? This was many years ago. You couldn't just take a photo of the phone number. You didn't have mobile phones with photos, etc. So I had to physically write down the number. After the first 2, 3 trips, I knew this is going to happen. I'm going to be note. So before he could say, I would carry like a pen and paper, and every time I would see a truck, I would quickly note down the number. Now, this is something that I never forgot. It's a simple, fun story from my life, but I have used this on so many occasions. So, for example, I had to pitch to a client for a sales workshop, sales training workshop. And I went to meet the client, and we were generally talking about how sales has changed, or how he thought that, people didn't have uh, for sales, for simple sales, people, you're finding it difficult to get people to do that, right? So I told him the story. I said, so many years back, my husband was so passionate about sales that he would involve me also. And he said, exactly, that's the kind of passion I don't see. And we immediately connected. And he knew what I was talking about because with this little story, I was able to explain to him that, see, I know what you're talking about. I know this passion is not there anymore, and this is what people were able to do. And I immediately connected, and I left an impact. I got the project. I left an impact on him with simple storytelling. And this story I have used at various places to showcase various traits or various examples. So each of us has stories in our lives. You just have to figure out relevant stories from your life that you can use with relevant situations and people. And that helps you connect. That helps you connect with people, and that helps you form bonds, and it just helps you explain your concepts better. We all talk about storytelling nowadays as how important it is, but these are real life examples I'm sharing with you that storytelling will always leave an impact. But and when I say storytelling, I actually mean two things. One is that when you take stories from your life, you know and you're able to share them with people in order to relate with people. But storytelling is not just that. There could be so many things. Storytelling could be, you take incidents from, let's say, simple thing as Mahabharata. You take incidents from there and you're able to apply it to business situations. And when you're talking to people, I know my husband is listening to a couple of podcasts on Mahabharata, and he's been using those. He's very interested, and he's been using various incidents and various stories and using them during business discussions. And people love that. You're able to leave an impact because now you're using something very rich, very historic to explain or to find connections between today's business environment, right? And that leaves so much impact. So whenever you speak to someone, it's a meeting, it's an interview, whatever, if you're able to take stories to explain concepts, it really, really works. And once you make it a habit, once you make it a habit to look for stories, you can start with 2 or 3 stories. We all have interesting stories. If you practice them continuously, you will start, it becomes a habit. You will start finding places where you can plug them in. You'll start figuring out, okay, I can use this story here, because in the normal course of the conversation, you'll realize, okay, this story fits in. The idea is to find those stories, not just from your life, from everywhere else, and use them to, help people understand and relate to you better. So I think that's something that helps you become very, very impactful in any situation. Even if I always tell people who are going for interviews, for example, how do you use storytelling there? So I always say that when you're asked, let's say, for example, tell us an achievement in your previous job, what is it that you did, or tell us your strengths and skills, right? Instead of just saying, I'm very good at so and so, or I'm very good at Excel, for example, or I'm very good at uh, solving problems, for example. Who's going to believe you? Because you they don't know, right? They don't know you. But if you could use a story or a case study to highlight that, you will leave an impact. So instead of just blandly saying that I'm very good at collaboration, can you help people understand that with a story that happened in your previous organization? Because there will be. If you're good at collaboration, there would have been many, many incidents where you showcased that you're good at collaboration. Now find those two stories. So everywhere you have a strength, you have showcased those strengths. So find those stories, think back, and use those stories in an interview, and you leave a better impact. People will just remember you more, and people will just relate to you more. So storytelling is a great, it's a huge way of leaving impact that all of us need to start uh, applying to our lives. And storytelling is not just about finding the stories from many, many places, it's also how you narrate. That's another art, of narrating a good story so that, people are actually interested in you. So the beginning, middle, end, whether you're finding humor or is there a learning, etc. But so you have to practice that art. So two things you have to practice. One is, of course, finding the stories. And the second is to be able to narrate stories very impactfully. So storytelling is my next tip. My next thing that I want to talk about, if you want to leave impact with people, and this is a very long term project. It's not something that I'm going to tell you today and you can practice tomorrow. But I believe in the concept of continuous learning. I believe that at any given point of time, you are the sum of all your experiences and all the learnings that you've had. And the minute you stop learning is the minute you will stop impacting people. Because, now you have closed yourself to any kind of new thoughts, new ideas, to be able to share new thoughts, new ideas. And when I say learning, I don't mean, courses that you will take. Yes, those are also important. If you keep improving your strengths and you keep improving your skills, automatically you leave more impact on people. But I think I'm also talking about learning in a very unorganized, unstructured manner. Reading, listening to podcasts, meeting new people with an open mind, not forming judgments, because people will teach you so much. If you enter into any meeting or if you just meet people with an open mind that this is an experience and this person, whatever, what this person does, how this person thinks, if I'm open to understanding about this person, I will learn so much. I will learn about new perspectives. I will learn about new ideas. I will get new insights into it's a junior, it's a senior, it's a vendor, it's a whoever it is. If you make up your mind that this person can teach me something, you will enter into every dialogue, every interaction with a lot of impact, because now you're not judging people. You're positive about every interaction, and you're thinking that I'm going to learn something from this. So that's a great way of leaving an impact, because the minute you meet people without forming any kind of judgments, any kind of judgments, you become very, very impactful. It shows in your body language, it shows in what you have to say, it shows in your confidence, because you're not worrying about what they're going to say and how you're going to react. You're going to be open to everything, and that helps you leave a lot of impact. So keep learning new things, learning new things from people. Keep learning new things about what is happening in the in around you. What is happening not just in your domain. You're into marketing, so you don't need to know just what is happening. That's also important. New things in your marketing, but an awareness of everything around you, that makes you impactful, because you can now have a conversation about anything. I think the most impactful people, the most influential people are those who are able to have a conversation and dialogue about anything. you know, and a knowledgeable discussion and a knowledgeable conversation with anything about anything. I find those people the most impactful and the most influential people, because now, it's automatic how people get impressed with knowledge. They may not admit it, they may not say it, it may not show, but knowledge impresses. So if you have any kind of, you know, uh, if you're sharing knowledge continuously, there is no way that you will not leave an impact on people. Um, the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I've also been going through some of the questions that we received. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was that it's subjective, uh, but I also think that each of us is unique, and we should also have some sort of a personal brand. It's a very common term nowadays to build a personal brand. To me, it is all about how you put yourself together and how you showcase yourself to the world, right? And that's a personal brand. And I think that's very, very important, right? So you have to figure out everything from the way you put yourself together, your body language. You have to work on your body language. If you will notice people, um, if, for example, somebody has to, so let's, if somebody has to give a presentation, right, and they walk onto a stage, right, you're able to, a person who's confident about their content, what they're going to say, etc. And when that happens, when you make up your mind that this person knows, because you study the confidence and you look at the way how how well put together they are, you are more open to listening to them. But if the person shuffles onto the stage and then is figuring out where my papers are, you've already lost half your interest. While yes, you're there to listen to a presentation, but somewhere subconsciously you've already lost half your interest. So a lot of impact also comes in from the confidence that you have in yourself, the confidence you have in your knowledge, which is why everything is kind of linked. But I'll give you another thing about confidence. Um, I always say that if you look confident, you feel confident. And if you feel confident, you look confident. Let me explain this. When you're feeling confident about a situation, you're going for an interview, you're very prepared, you have to give a presentation, you're very prepared. Your mind sends signals to your body that this is a happy situation, there's nothing to worry, and your body automatically looks more confident. So, you walk taller, so shoulders straight, stomach tucked in, you're smiling because you're confident, because you're feeling confident, which is why you look confident. I always say that the reverse is also true. If you look confident, even though you may be dying inside, but if you look confident, if you force your body, it becomes a habit to, walk tall, walk straight, walk sharp, look sharp, automatically now your body will send signals to your mind that, okay, this is a handleable situation, and you will feel more confident, which is why you should try this when you're going to meet someone. If you just put a smile on your face, keep an open face, put a smile on your face, walk tall, walk confidently, you will feel more confident about that situation, which is just so important, right? So I think these two things are very interrelated. If you look confident, you feel confident. If you feel confident, you look confident. Okay, I'm going to take a tiny break at this point and ask you if you're enjoying this, and if you have any comment, any question that you had. I will take up the questions later, but I'd love to take up one or two questions on what I've said up till now. In the meantime, also go back and look at some of the questions that you've sent earlier. You can put them in the chat box.
So, Dipika, we have received a question from Akansha.
Yeah.
So do you want me to have that said to you, read out to you?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
How can we more fluent in our communication when we have lost momentum?
Okay. I love this question because I give a lot of presentations, right? And I'm forever on stage speaking. I'm speaking to you right now, and the internet went off, and even I lose my momentum, right? But the thing is, I want you always to remember that you are not being judged on your memory. Okay. You are being judged on your content. That's the single biggest thing. So it's okay. You have to tell yourself, first and foremost, it's okay to lose momentum. It's okay to lose your thread, right? It's perfectly okay. It's how you handle it, right? I think, first of all, honesty really works. Authenticity, as we call it. So if you lose momentum, you can look up and say, Ki, okay, give me a second. I've lost myself, and you smile. It will, it, nobody will say anything to you, it's perfectly okay. If what you're saying is interesting, if what you're saying is good, and if you lose your thread, pause, take a deep breath, and look at your slides if you have to, or just collect your thoughts and come back to it. But don't become nervous that you've forgotten what you had to say, because I don't think people are really judging you on that, whether you're remembering what you had to say. If you're able to pick up the threads and come back with something really interesting, they're okay with that. The second thing I would say is, in situations where you know that this might happen, for example, if you're giving a presentation or if it's a formal talk, etc., it's always good to have a piece of paper with keywords on it, not long sentences, because what will happen is that you'll never be able to read the long sentences. But if you just keep a piece of paper with just keywords, so you can quickly glance at the paper and you know what comes next. So in that flow, you write. So for example, if I'm giving a presentation talk like this, I will just put down words, engaged, truck story, like that. So if I just write, if I look at it immediately, I know what I have to talk about next, or I have to give that truck story next. So that's also okay. The third thing I want to say is that half the time we feel that the flow is very important. Step number one, step number two, point number three, point number four. And if I forget point number three, oh my God, it's perfectly okay to start with point number four, and come back. Your confidence in your ability to, first, your confidence in your content and your knowledge about that content. So you don't have to remember what you have to say, like ratify it and like that. You can speak about it extempore. So first of all, you should have knowledge about what you're speaking. So keep working on that. Keep working on that. Second of all, your confidence in the fact that even if you forget, it's okay. I will come back, to it. Take a pause, drink a glass of water. Admit you've lost your thread. To me, that has worked. Authenticity to me has worked so much. I'm giving a workshop. I completely forget. Okay, what is it that I had a story here which I've forgotten? Let me just refer to my notes and come back. Authenticity has always worked for me. So you have to figure out, but remember that it don't get nervous about the fact that you forgot it, right? That doesn't count. That doesn't matter at all. As long as your knowledge and your content is in place and you will be able to pick up, um, everything else is okay. And that's a lot of self-belief and self-confidence that it's okay. Even if I forget, I will pick it up from somewhere. That self-confidence you need to have in yourself. That's very, very important.
So we do have other questions that are coming in. So you want to take them at the last, or we can have them continued, or how do you want to go about it?
Yeah, so I have one or two more things that I want to talk about in terms of leaving impact. You're welcome, Akanksha. The I think one of the things that I want to talk about, as far as you leaving an impact, is that uh, always treat people well. You know, I've realized that if you're good to people, you leave an impact, because people, and it's again a cliche thing, but it's so important. People remember how you make them feel. So you have to make them feel good about a situation. You have to make them feel important about a situation. Just generally have to give respect to people, and you will create impact. So impact is not just how you dress, how confident you're feeling, how you speak. It is also how much respect you give to the other person, right? Always put yourself in the other person's shoes and understand what the situation means to them. And it's huge. This one point is so huge. If you really want to create impact, um, understanding the other person's perspective and treating that person well and treating that person with respect will again take you a long way and will take you very, very far. So whatever you do, your communication skills, when you're speaking to someone, how you enter into a meeting. Always ensure that you treat people well. It doesn't matter who those people are. It doesn't matter who those people are. But if you treat people well, you will always leave an impact. Then your designation doesn't count. Where you are in the system, where you are in the organization, in the chain, that doesn't count. You will be known as someone who's good to people, and that's also about creating impact. The last thing I want to tell you is to always have a set of goals, short term and long term, in your life if you want to create impact. Because a lot of us just meander through life. We take each day as it comes, we take each quarter as it comes, we take each year as it comes, right? But to have goals in your life, whether they are short term or they are long term, will help you create more impact, because now you know where you're headed, right? So you will know what you have to do, where you what you have to focus on, and that will help you create a lot of impact. um, I think impact really, like I said, the first thing, it really begins with your self belief and self confidence in your own self, and that will come when you know your strengths, right? I saw a question somewhere where somebody has to give a presentation, and they start shaking and they start feeling very very nervous. um, if you believe in yourself, and if you have enough, your subject well, then all of this other thing, doesn't count. I had a teacher, Mrs. Goswami. uh, uh, in my school when I was 13 years old, Mrs. Goswami was my English teacher, and she realized I would speak well. So she plucked me out and she said she's going to be the person I'm going to start grooming for debates. And she started grooming me. So the first debate she entered me into, inter-house debate, was, I still remember the topic. It was, should you be a jack of all trades or a master of one? And she trained me. We had a great speech, and then 2 days before the debate, she was very happy with me. 2 days before the debate, she says we should do this in front of an audience. So she called 50 people from my class, and they sat down, and she asked me to go up on stage, and she spoke and speak. I couldn't do it. I was so nervous. I just couldn't do it. And Mrs. Goswami was so perceptive. She said, when you went up on stage, you started focusing on how people are going to judge you. You have a great script. We have gone over it again and again. You say it and speak it really well, but you have let your nervousness, because you think people are going to judge you, which is why you become nervous. But how should it matter? She says, I'm going to tell you today one thing which I want you to remember all your life. When you go up on stage, right, intrinsically people are actually rooting for you. So think about your own experience. When you see someone walk up on stage, you do want that person to do a good job. You do want, somewhere deep inside, sometimes I feel very nervous when I see someone getting nervous on stage. I also start feeling nervous. Arey yaar, I hope he does a good job. I somehow begin to feel nervous. But we are so bothered about how people are going to judge us that we don't. So she said, don't worry about that. People are actually not judging you. They want you to do a good job. And then she gave me a trick, which I want you to, if you or somebody else feels scared on stage, she gave me a trick. She says, in the audience, there will always be friendly faces. These are two or three people who you can make out from their expression that they are also, keen that you should do a good job. They will smile at you. They will nod very encouraging at you. Those are your anchors. So those are the people you look at, because from there you're getting positive signals. So you found your two friendly faces. It could be your friends or somebody who's just looking very eagerly at you. Look at one person, then roam around the room. Don't look at anyone else. Find your next friendly face. Already before you've started, you find your friendly faces. Look at that person. Come back to friendly face number one. Talk to only those friendly faces. It has a tip. It is a tip that has worked with me all my life. It works even now. This friendly face tip. Every time I'm giving a speech or a workshop, I know in my class who are those two or three people who are the really most, interested. And those, while I'm talking to everyone, and I know I want everyone to learn from me, but those are my anchors, and that takes away my nervousness. And also, I stopped worrying that people are going to judge me. I only think about what value am I going to add to their lives. If they listen to me, what value, what are they coming here for? If I'm able to add value to their lives. So I think from their perspective than me. The another reason why we're unable to leave impact is that we're always thinking about ourselves, how am I looking? How am I speaking? But if you switch it around and think about how is the other person, why is this other person meeting me? It's not about, can I impress this person? Can I add value to this person's life? If I'm going for a sales meeting, it's not about, leaving an impression or whatever. What can I offer to this guy? Do I know my product really well to be able to sell it to him? That's what leaves an impact. So switch it around to think of it from the other person's perspective, and automatically you will leave an impact because you're not thinking about yourself anymore, right? So, yeah. Lakshmi is saying that yes. In fact, many years ago, this was a tip she gave me, and I think subconsciously everyone. And when you find those friendly faces, like I said, those are your anchor points. Because the minute I, for example, look at someone who's not a friendly face, who could be for whatever reason looking bored, or is not, very into the situation, that impacts the quality of my work, right? So I will want to look at a friendly face. So it's a great thing to do. So while everything seems very long term, this is a tip that you can use. You can start using like right now. Next presentation you have to give, look at friendly faces. Yeah. There was one more question which I wanted to take up. We think of impact. Somebody had written in earlier about designations. How impactful, you leave more impact because of designations. I don't think you should worry about that. While I agree that designations come with their own impact, there's no denying that. But you are not your designation. So even as a very junior person, you can leave an impact if you know your subject really well, if you're able to have an opinion about things, if you gather knowledge, you're able to share knowledge. You're a curious person who keeps wanting to know more about things and who wants to learn new things. So it's not so. Impact doesn't come from designation. Designation is, you could have a vice president in a bank that people really respect because he's good at his work. He shares his expertise. Everybody knows he's good. And then you could have a vice president at a bank who's only there because, respect because there's a designation in place, right? So it is really up to you, the impact that you want to create. It's not so much about the designation. You can create your own impact with all of these things that I've spoken about. Knowing your strengths and amplifying your strengths is one of the biggest things to leave an impact. You really need to know what you're good at and use that, and then do work that utilizes that strengths and those skills. You should be very sharp and very smart to know that this is what I'm good at, and this is what I'm going to start focusing on, so that I just keep getting better and better and better, and people come to know about my strengths. I see a lot of questions.
Yeah, Dipika. So should we go ahead and have
yes, let's have questions. Yeah. Yes, lots of questions. So.
Yes. So before we move into the Q&A session, we will be initiating a poll. Request all the participants to kindly share your feedback on that. So request all our participants to share your feedback on our today's session. While you all are doing so, would request all the participants to also post in your questions in the chat box. Once again, I thank all our participants for joining our session today. We have received a lot of inquiries about the e-certificate offered by HRAI. You all can claim your certificate by sharing your details at the email ID provided in the chat window. We will email the e-certificates to you based on details received. So yes, Dipika, while we have the questions coming in, we have a question from Tushar. Okay. How do I know that I have the ability to influence, and how can I increase this ability step by step? How do I self-test?
First of all, you have to ask yourself, what do you mean by who do you want to influence, and what do you mean by influence? If you're in sales, for example, do you want more people to buy your product? When you meet people, do you want them to buy your product, right? Influence comes from knowledge, and influence comes from great communication skills. But mostly, I think you are able to convince people and influence people when you know your product and you know yourself very, very well, and that is what influencing people is all about. You're able to form opinions People are able to take a decision based on what you're offering to them, the what you're able to say to them. So I think first of all, if you want to be an influence, if you want to influence people, you really need to work on your own knowledge of things. So so, and by knowledge I don't mean it could just be about your product. If you're selling paints, for example, um, you need to be very sure about why somebody should buy your paint. Why is it different from another person's product and any other brand? Any question that the customer would have, you should be able to handle. Now when you know all of that, you'll be able to handle every question, and that's when you start influencing people to take decisions that you would want them to take. So that's one thing. One is knowledge, about your own product, about your own self, etc. Second, influence is when people see a benefit in what you're asking them to do. People see value in what you're asking them to do. That again creates a lot of influence. The third thing I think is when you start adding value to people's lives. That again, is influence. So you see a lot of these nowadays. There's this whole influencer thing, because people are adding value to people's life. I'll give you a very basic example. On Instagram, when I go, I see so many people, giving me makeup videos, and brands are now paying because they're called an influencer because they share knowledge, even if it is as random as makeup or what clothes you should wear or what places you should travel to. It's not because suddenly they become influential and they have tons of people following them. It's because they've been sharing their knowledge and they've been sharing interesting things and adding value to people's lives. So a travel blogger, for example, today is known as an influencer and can influence your decision because he's sharing knowledge and he's adding value to your life by telling you, okay, this is a great place to go to. This is what it has. This is what you should do to get there. Here's what you should eat. Adding value to you. Now you know so much. So knowledge, adding knowledge, sharing your knowledge, and adding value to people's life will automatically influence. Simple thing like when you go for a meeting also, if you're able to add value to that person's life that you're meeting, if you're able to share interesting anecdotes or something that helps him, it's as simple as, if you read a lot of books and you're sharing books with people, people who like to read, you're adding value to their lives. You're able to, they become influenced by you. So I think sharing knowledge and adding value to people's life is one of the biggest things that I would say. Of course, you also need to work on your communication skills, but those are very cosmetic. Just sharing knowledge and adding value to people's lives will help you influence them better in taking the right decisions.
Well answered, Deepika. Our next question is from Parvati. In crowd, one of my student Asta starts shaking while giving presentation. How
Hmm.
to groom her
Hmm.
for MBA presentation, good presentation, give marks.
Right. I think you have to tell her what Mrs. Goswami told me that, you don't have, see, you don't have to judge yourself. Now, it's very difficult to tell this to someone who's very, very nervous in any case, and going up in front of people. And I think a lot of people are so scared, to speak in front of other people. And I think the largest reason is because they feel they are being judged. What are people going to think about me? They feel so nervous about that one thing. So I think the biggest fear is being judged. What people are going to think of me. The second fear, I think, is what if I forget what I have to say? These are the two fears that people have, about speaking in front of people, which is why a lot of people, even in conferences, I see, panel discussion happened. And the anchor will say, are there any questions? I know so many people who don't put their hands up because the fear of just standing up and asking a question. What will people think? Am I looking okay? What will they think about my question? Is it a silly question? So this whole thing of being judged. So I think the first thing to do is to tell her that she's not being judged. So that's one fear that you have to wipe out, that it's perfectly okay. These are all people who laugh at anything in any case. They don't matter. You just focus on ensuring that this is what they're going to learn from you, right? So increasing the person's confidence in their own self, and secondly telling her that the content matters more than her forgetting anything or anything. So she needs to be very clear of her content and understand her content so she can handle the questions, or just handle the presentation really well. She knows the flow of the presentation, and I think she just needs to start focusing on being on thinking what are people thinking about me and wondering about how she's being judged. So these 2, 3 things, and ask her to focus on those friendly faces. Even if it's a one friendly face, it will help her. She will feel. Drinking a glass of water. I feel that, when you launch into a presentation, for a lot of new people, I always say that pause, speak slowly. Don't rush through it because you want to get through it. I want to finish it fast, slowly. So just slowly taking deep breaths in between will make you feel calmer. There's nothing like taking a deep breath to calm you down, so just tell her to speak slowly. Tell her to stop and drink a glass of water, like take 2 sips of water, breathe, and then carry on. She'll feel better. She'll feel more confident
This
about it.
really, yeah, this really helps, Dipika. Our next question is from Ritvik. How can we build the confidence in our children?
Hmm. Um, get them to experience a lot of experiential activities where I think confidence comes from interacting with different kinds of people, being put in different kinds of situations, so they learn how to handle. I really believe in experiential learning. So I think children who are put into collaborative activities, or children who are asked to make things, because then they start using their cognitive skills, as we call them, on problem solving. So experiential activities that prepare children for life skills, how to speak better, storytelling, how to collaborate with people, how to talk to new people, how to tell a good story. These are the skills that will build a lot of confidence. I personally, while I've always been a confident person, I still think that there was this one theater workshop I did. It was by Barry John when I was, I think, 15 years old. That theater workshop, Barry, he was a very celebrated theater artist. He's done a lot of workshops in Delhi. Shah Rukh Khan has done his workshops, and he constantly talks about them because they're life-changing experience. And in the workshop, it had to lead up to a play. There was no script. He just made us do a lot of exercises, impromptu exercises, improv, as we call it. And that gave me so much confidence that, so those kind of activities, that one theater workshop taught me my skills, taught me how to collaborate with people. He would give us things like, two of you, he would pick 2 people, make pairs of 2, and say, now enact a scene where one is more powerful than the other. So you're just thinking that, what can I showcase where one person is more powerful? Then you start thinking of real life examples. So life skills, teach your children life skills, collaboration, negotiation, solving problems. That will give them a lot of confidence. Also, somewhere try and let them solve their own problems, so that they're able to build the confidence that I can do it. You don't want them to turn around and think that, okay, my parent will solve every problem for me. Long term, I think children just need to learn how to solve their own problems. That's what gives them confidence in the future. So I think very important to do that.
So rightly answered, Deepika. We see many more questions coming in. One last question that we'll take up, and the rest I believe I'll share it with you via email, so that we can have them answered. This question is from Shweta. Can you give some tips to improve personal branding?
Branding. Mm. Mm. I actually do personal branding workshops and coaching. And I really, really, really believe in personal branding. Now, a lot of people think this is my favorite subject because it is my subject. I think personal branding, a lot of people think of it as creating viral content on the internet. You want to write big posts, good posts, numbers of followers, viewers, etc. I don't think that is the core of personal branding. The core of personal branding is people know your goals. So core of personal branding is to identify your skills and strengths and amplify them so that you can create more opportunities for yourself. It's as simple as that. Now, I think there are 2 kinds of opportunities. One is vertical opportunity. So if you're good at something, you talk about it, whether within your organization or outside of your organization. So you get vertical opportunities, which means a higher role in your organization or a bigger role somewhere else. That's your vertical opportunity because now people know what you're good at. Lateral opportunities, I think, are when opportunities come from random other places. So for example, if you're really good at marketing and you're constantly creating content around marketing or talking about marketing within your organization, you will get invited for panels, perhaps to speak on marketing. Somebody might give you a book deal to write on marketing. So those are lateral opportunities that come. Building a great personal brand begins from identifying what your goals are. If your goal is to just within your industry to be known as someone who's good at this particular subject, then what you will do will be very different. Then you're not writing viral content anywhere. You have to ensure that you're visible to your industry, right? So you will write in, let's say, industry forums. You will figure out how to be present in industry forum panels. You will maybe write in one of your, you will find within LinkedIn, you will network within your industry, right? So it really begins with your goal. If you're an entrepreneur like me, if you want more clients or you want more people to come to know about the fact that I do workshops, I create content, little bits of content which I put up on LinkedIn because I want people to see what is it that I talk about, what is it that I'm good at. So it begins with your goals. It's as simple as that. Then you figure out where the audience is that you would want people, where you're building your personal brand. Who is your audience? Where do you want the opportunities from, right? And you focus on those platforms. If it's only internal, then within your organization, maybe you want to create more, you want to speak at a certain topic, or you want to write for your organization. Maybe there's a portal somewhere, you want to put up tips somewhere over there, so figure out where the audience is. If you want to go outside of your organization and general industry, then LinkedIn maybe, or Medium maybe you want to write. Then you have to figure out your personal branding will always, always, always begin from your core expertise. What is it that you're good at? Because that will flow naturally, and that is what you want people to get to know about you, right? It's not just about motivational quotes. You have to share your expertise so they can attract opportunities. So your topics will flow from there. Then you have to figure out what channels should you be using. Should you be writing? Should you be creating videos? Is Twitter your channel? Should you just be putting articles somewhere? So you have to figure all of this out. But it begins from knowing your goals. It begins from figuring out your expertise because you want to talk about that expertise. Where do you want more opportunities? And then it is about creating content and ensuring people come to know about your expertise. And that is your basic of uh, personal branding. I hope that answers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dipika. It was an enlightening session and highlighting the aspects of believing in yourself to create that impact. It's very well uh, brought through. It has been a pleasure being with you today, and I'm sure our participants have had a lot to learn and take away from this session. Before we conclude with our today's session, we would also want to thank the association members, Geisha and NASCOM COE, for supporting these HRAI events. To know more about these associations, request you to kindly visit the link provided in the chat window. Thank you once again, Dipika, and our participants for joining us today. Do join us for our next session on connecting the dots on the topic Technology Towards Business Excellence on the 4th of Feb 2021. Request you to kindly register for this event on the link mentioned in the chat window. I request you to also join our WhatsApp chat group with the link mentioned in the chat window. That's it from us today. See you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me and listening to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dipika.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Karthik, for joining in. Thank you, Shyam. We may hereby conclude with our today's webinar.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay.